On the coast of Sardinia, there is a private estate with an artificial volcano, a grotto beneath the hillside, a theater, gardens built like separate worlds, and a small amusement park hidden among olive trees. It is called Villa Certosa. Calling it a villa makes it sound too simple. This is a private landscape designed as a sequence of surprises, where every path reveals another structure, another pool, another controlled view of the sea. And in 2026, this strange estate entered a new chapter after its owners accepted a binding offer to sell it. Before we enter the story, one important distinction. The images in this film are original illustrative reconstructions built from public descriptions and property materials. They are not private footage, and they are not a room-by-room tour. That is exactly why Villa Certosa is so interesting. For decades, people knew the name but saw only fragments. The estate was discussed as rumor, spectacle, and mythology. The public material now available lets us ask a better question. What kind of private world needs its own volcano, its own lake system, and its own theater? Villa Certosa sits near Porto Rotondo on Sardinia's Costa Smeralda, where pale granite, dark vegetation, and intensely blue water create one of the Mediterranean's most recognizable landscapes. The setting matters because the estate does not fight the coastline with a single giant facade. It spreads through it. Stone buildings, planted terraces, water features, and concealed paths are arranged to make the property feel less like one residence and more like a private district. Its luxury is not defined by a front door. It begins with the distance between one experience and the next. Most expensive homes become memorable through one room, a ballroom, a garage, an infinity pool. Villa Certosa uses a different logic. The official property material lists separate landscapes and facilities: lakes, outdoor pools, an indoor lagoon, sports spaces, a helipad, gardens, and an amphitheatre. The important thing is not the number of amenities. It is the way they are dispersed. You do not experience the estate as a checklist. You travel across it. That creates a very specific kind of privacy. Guests can be close to each other, yet still feel as if they occupy completely different worlds. The most surreal feature is the mock volcano. It is not a natural landmark, and it is not a theme park prop placed at the edge of a driveway. The property itself describes a custom-built volcano designed to create an eruptive display of sound and cascading artificial lava. It is almost the opposite of minimalist luxury. Instead of hiding the theatrical element, the estate makes it part of the landscape. That choice tells us something useful. Villa Certosa was not designed only to be beautiful when nobody is there. It was designed to stage an experience when the owner decides the night needs a new center of gravity. Then there is Neptune's Grotto, a man-made cave within the hillside. The official description speaks of a domed ceiling lit like a night sky, a pool, and a sculpture of Neptune. In a conventional luxury home, wellness areas are kept bright, neutral, and predictable. A grotto changes the atmosphere completely. It turns water, stone, and low light into a controlled piece of theater. This is not an argument that every private spa should be a cave. It is an example of the estate's deeper pattern. Familiar functions are repeatedly transformed into environments with their own mood, scale, and internal story. Water is the system that connects many of those worlds. The estate lists 3 lakes, 7 outdoor pools, and an indoor lagoon, with spaces for swimming, therapy, reflection, and gathering. One lake is described with a floating tiki bar, while another is framed as a quieter landscape with vegetation and birdlife. That range is important. A pool can be an object. A water system can become an itinerary. At Villa Certosa, water seems designed to slow the viewer down, to change the sound of a space, and to make the surrounding coastline feel closer, without exposing the private life happening behind the trees. The amusement park is perhaps the clearest signal that normal real estate language has stopped working. Among the olive trees, the official property material describes vintage-style rides, including a carousel and a swing tower. It would be easy to reduce that detail to a joke, but it reveals a serious design decision. The estate does not separate adult luxury from childhood fantasy. It combines them. A private property can offer a formal amphitheatre in one direction and a fairground in another, without treating either as out of place. The result is not subtle. It is deliberately personal, almost like a private memory turned into architecture. Beyond the spectacle, the gardens are a major part of the design. The estate's own material describes olive groves, a vineyard, medicinal plants, cactus and hibiscus collections, and other planted areas with distinct identities. A garden on this scale is not decoration around a building, it is operating infrastructure. It needs irrigation, horticulture, maintenance, privacy planning, and constant decisions about what should be visible from each path. That is the quieter side of extreme wealth. The visual drama of a volcano is easy to notice. The much harder achievement is making a large planted landscape feel composed year after year, without revealing the work required to keep it alive. At the center of the estate sits a Greek-style amphitheatre with tiered stone seating and a mosaic floor. It turns the grounds into more than a retreat. It creates a place where an audience can gather, where a performance can happen, and where the architecture becomes a frame for a single moment. That is a recurring Villa Certosa idea: landscape as stage set. The coastline, gardens, water, stone, and artificial mountain are not isolated features. They are components in a larger choreography. Luxury here is not only access to rare materials. It is the ability to decide what the next scene should feel like. A property this elaborate only works because of systems most guests never see. Pools require filtration. Gardens require water and care. A helipad, sports grounds, thermal areas, and separate structures need routes for staff, deliveries, security, and maintenance. We do not need to invent secret rooms or private routines to understand the point. The estate itself proves the scale of the operation through the variety of features it names. The real luxury is not the volcano by itself. It is the invisible coordination that lets a volcano, a garden, a lake, and an amphitheatre all feel like effortless parts of one private world. Privacy at Villa Certosa is not a blank wall or an oversized gate. It is created through distance, terrain, and choice. A guest can move from a terrace to a garden, from a garden to water, from water to a grotto, and each transition changes who can see whom. That makes the property more architectural than a collection of luxury objects. Every turn manages a line of sight. Every planted corridor creates a pause. The sea remains present without becoming a public view into the estate. The most valuable design feature is not always the thing that photographs well. Sometimes it is the ability to disappear while surrounded by beauty. The timing of this story matters. In June 2026, Fininvest confirmed that one of its companies had accepted a binding offer from a foreign entity for Villa Certosa. Reuters reporting connected the buyer to Qatar's ruling family, while Fininvest did not disclose further details. That does not turn the estate into a simple transaction. It explains why the public is looking at it again. When an asset this private changes hands, its architecture becomes a kind of evidence. The grounds show what decades of private ambition can build when the normal limits of land, labor, and maintenance are removed. It would be easy to turn Villa Certosa into a gossip story. That would miss the strongest part of it. The estate is more interesting as an exercise in authored space, a coastal property where the landscape is designed to surprise, conceal, and perform. We do not need to speculate about private guests, private events, or rooms that have not been publicly documented. The verified features already say enough. A mock volcano, a subterranean grotto, lakes and pools, a private amusement park, a theater in stone. None of those details are ordinary, and together they reveal a rare thing, a private estate designed like its own fictional universe. That is why Villa Certosa has more to teach us than a conventional mansion tour. It shows that the highest level of luxury is not always minimal, quiet, or discreet in the usual sense. Sometimes it is deeply theatrical, but controlled with enough precision that every unusual detail has a place in the wider setting. The property is not trying to imitate a five-star hotel. Hotels are built so thousands of people can understand them immediately. Villa Certosa was built around private authorship. Its logic is personal first, practical second, and conventional only when convention serves the experience. Villa Certosa is not memorable because it has one expensive feature. It is memorable because it keeps changing the definition of what a private estate can be. A garden becomes a stage. A hill becomes a volcano. A spa becomes a mythological cave. A coast becomes a private map of rooms without walls. Its sale has reopened a public conversation about a place that was always difficult to see clearly. But the real story is already visible in the design. This is architecture built not simply to shelter wealth, but to give wealth its own landscape, rhythm, and imagination. For more evidence-led stories about extraordinary homes, rare machines, and the private worlds behind them, subscribe to Luxury Exclusive. If you want to be a billionaire, like, subscribe, and comment. God bless you.